Not many people have heard the term shared economy before, but 2 out of 3 Australians actually use it nearly every day. We're talking Uber, Airbnb, eBay, and more.
Welcome to The Human Factor, the show where we explore social change through the eyes of social entrepreneurs. My name is Melanie Roussin, her name is Erin McKay, and we are your hosts. Erin and I met when working in the nonprofit sector. We became really curious about social change and the people behind it. So we've created the Human Factor podcast. If you're starting or running a social enterprise, or maybe you're interested in stories of good or how social change happened, then you're in the right place. Stick around and have a listen.
We all know what a library is, a quiet place to borrow books and talk in hushed tones as people study and learn. Today, we're talking to Sabrina Chakori, the founder of a different kind of library and the first of its kind in Australia. Sabrina founded the Brisbane Tool Library in 2017 after realising that to tackle the world's waste and environmental problems, we had to question what we buy and why. Based in our hometown of Brisbane, the social enterprise allows members to access a huge library of tools, sporting and camping equipment, and other specialist tools for a yearly fee. Over 40 volunteers are hoping to go beyond the take, make and dispose model and work towards creating a circular economy and reduce waste. So hi Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us on The Human Factor. Please fill in the gaps in my intro and tell us how you would describe yourself.
Well, I might add a few things, what you said. So yeah, the Brisbane Tool Library works exactly like a book library, but for tools that can be handle power tools and camping and sport gear. But we are more than just a service to the community. In fact, the Brisbane Tool Library wants to promote and explore new economic systems to challenge and change the economic growth paradigm. And our users can not only borrow all the items that we have available, but being a member of a tool library allows also people to save space, because we always have all these things that are underused at home. So that way they can save space at home, plus they can save money. In fact, the Brisbane Tool Library is based on a sharing economy. And as you said, we have memberships that are year membership, which means that for the price of one tool, you can basically access 100 of them. And and my role in this is, I feel the Brisbane Tool Library, as I said, is a service, but is more a vision of what all our team would like to achieve. So it's always important to keep that vision as the engine, to work toward all the obstacles that we might have on our way.
Oh, that's beautiful, Sabrina. As the founder of a new concept like the Brisbane Tool Library, which, by the way, I love, I'm sure no day is the same. What does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, yeah. It's literally, I literally have every day that it's different. I spend, since I started the tool library, I spend days with our team working on the tools, like collecting tools donation, driving to every suburb of Brisbane, collecting them, cleaning them, or other times we worked on the logistics. Some less fun days, they force me to stay behind my laptop working on emails and other computer work. And other days I have to run from one place to the other for meetings. So, and in addition to this, I have my full-time PhD and other things. So it's really exciting, because there's definitely, every day is definitely a different energy, but it can be a bit stressful at the time. But I would definitely recommend it to everyone to at least experience and maybe manage better than us our time sometimes.
So I had not really heard the term shared or circular economy until a little while ago, maybe 6 months ago. So what is the one thing that that you found that most people don't know or understand about the concept of the circular economy?
I think that, first of all, before understanding what a circular economy is, we need to define what a linear economy is. So we live, our currently society is based on a linear economy, which basically means that we take planet resources, we make something, we make items, we produce goods, and usually the use phase of these goods is very short, and then we throw them away. So it's a very wasteful society, and it has been like this more or less since post-World War II, where, after all the tragedies happening where the war, people were encouraged to really spend and consume to build economic growth. And since then we kept consuming all kind of items, clothes, phones, DVDs, etc. So this is a linear economy. A circular economy, let's say, that came out a bit from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They promoted this term in the recent years. And it basically means that it's an economy that highlights how our waste can be a resource. There are many examples of circular systems that now are taking place over the world, that they can go, for example, not only from tool libraries, as I might explain later, but from transforming food waste to energy. It's all about closing that loop of resources. And another thing that circular economy, unfortunately, is becoming is a very mainstream term, and sometimes it's let's say mixed with just recycling and waste management. No, circular economy, it's not just waste management. That probably is something that we would have had to do 20 years ago. The circular economy wants to promote eco-innovation, eco-design of products that can be actually repaired or reused or reduced in total in our business models. So there's really an entire universe to explore and to put in place within a circular economy.
Oh, that's beautiful. So the Brisbane Tool Library is based on the concept of borrowing, like a little bit like a normal library, as you've explained earlier. But the concept did not really exist in Australia before you came along, Sabrina. So tell us the story about how the Brisbane Tool Library came to be.
To be honest, there were two small projects like the Brisbane Tool Library before, one in Brunswick in Melbourne and one just for artists to share their resources in the Blue Mountains. We came in with the idea of the Tool Library, but we added all these workshop and the vision that I talked about before. How did I start it? It's always interesting actually to remember, how we started. I've been active for the environmental cause for the last 11 years. And I couldn't choose to focus, just on protecting the reef or the Amazon forest or climate change or all the other social issues. What about the refugees, etc.? I felt I couldn't choose just one topic. And so I was like, one day I was like thinking, how can I manage this? How can I use my time to improve all this situation? And then I started researching by myself, and I found out that our economic system now is partially or definitely linked to all these issues around the world. So I thought we need to focus on changing the economy, and changing the economy, then we're going to have some positive feedbacks on all the other issues. And then when you're at home and think, all right, let's change the economy then. You have to understand, first of all, what economy means, because when we think about economic system, we might think about investment and all these bigger intangible things out there, but in fact the economy is basically what we trade and the value that we put on things, such as our resources. I published a paper. I've been involved for the last 3 years with the New Economy Network Australia, so we have every year conference, but I felt I had to also implement something locally, something more grassroots that would allow people to actually access physically a new economy, not just thinking about new systems, if it's clear what I'm saying. So it's like, how can I bring with me the community into shaping people's behavior, into shaping consumers' behavior? And I was like, what if we just start sharing things? And there's so many groups out there in social media that share stuff, but they weren't very constant. It wasn't a normal service. And so, as I said, in Queensland, there was nothing like this. And I started, and thanks to our development, we have internet. And I realized that in the US, they had a lot in the US and in Canada. They had a lot of tool libraries, and which was great. And then I started understanding why no one did it in Australia, because the law is so complicated here compared to the US. But we went step by step and we made it happen. So we have a tool library in Brisbane now.
It's so amazing. I love this idea. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people that have in my garage like camping equipment and stuff like that, which I probably haven't used in 2 years. So I just absolutely love the concept. So as a social enterprise and a relatively new one, how does the Brisbane Tool Library ensure it's working towards achieving that social mission, that vision that you spoke about, but still being sustainable and making a profit?
So we are a not-for-profit organization, and I think it's really important to highlight that being a social enterprise or responsible business or being a not-for-profit doesn't mean being a charity. Usually charity are really connected with, receiving grants and being always dependent on people's donation or government donation. While in fact, a not-for-profit organization, a social enterprise, yes, it's social, but it's also an enterprise. So being non-for-profit for us, it means that we make our business model work in order to pay all our costs, first of all, such as insurance and other major costs. And we could afford to partially pay someone just for 3 months. So we don't have incomes yet, but by the end of this year, hopefully we're going to be able to pay some of our team members. So once we pay our people and we pay all the costs we have, all the rest get reinvested in the project. So we don't have any extra profit that other businesses or big corporations might just create in order, to increase GDP and all these things.
Sabrina, earlier you mentioned that the law is quite complicated here in Australia, but also I can imagine that trying to challenge something like a new economic system is challenging. So if you could tell us, what would you say has been the most challenging part of being the founder of a unique enterprise like the Brisbane Tool Library?
Insurance, really very easy. We live in a society that now is insured for everything and we are afraid of everything. And I completely understand because, of course, safety is the first thing for everyone, and especially when you handle tools. But what that insurance problem really meant to me and what was hiding to me is that it's so hard for a social enterprise to receive second-hand goods and to re-put them in the economy, so in people's hand. We found so many challenges, understanding how many times we need to test and tag the tools, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in fact, if we all keep our stuff in our homes, it may be much easier for the society. But let's have a thought about the linear economy that I mentioned before. How the linear economy is nourishing our economic growth is mainly through planned obsolescence, which basically means that manufacturers today and retailers are selling us tools, for example, that they are planned to be out of work, so not working in the next few months or years. So that then people have to buy more tools or at every time spend more, and so that we can keep growing that economic growth paradigm. So for me, finding out which insurance we had to have and all that safety-related things, I realized how everything is just really planned to go to waste. It's more difficult to give value back to our dormant goods that we have at home than just sending them to landfill. It's much easier to send them to landfill.
I know, it's absolutely crazy to think that when we buy a product, it's set up to break. Like it's not what you want in when you buy a good. What would you say is your biggest lesson that you've learned throughout this journey that our listeners can actually take away and apply to their own cause?
I think that it's probably my personal story in this journey, which is I basically moved from Europe to here in Australia just 3.5 years ago. When you arrive in a country where you don't know anyone, you have to reconnect. To connect with people, you have to build your network. You have to be resilient in failing or maybe not finding the right contact. So that networking part and rebuilding your life, it's hard sometimes. But the good thing about all these global problems, and that's how I came to Australia. Well, I came to do a master, but I had this. It's like, because I was thinking maybe I should stay in Europe and, change the system from where I am, is that the only good thing about global problems is that you can act from wherever you are in the world. So it doesn't matter if I'm here in Australia today or I'm going to be somewhere else tomorrow. We can all act from where we are, and we can just do it actually connecting with people in that country and work with them.
That is so true. We're just looking at each other thinking, oh my God, that's such a great concept. So I've just heard that you've started you're doing your PhD full time, and I've actually just started my PhD full time. Yay! So I'm really curious, Sabrina, because you seem to be a bit of a superwoman from where I'm sitting from, to be doing your PhD full time, managing the Brisbane Tool Library, but also I heard that you're also a co-founder of a 3D printing company as well. So I'm thinking, where do you find the time? And also, what advice do you have for our listeners that are trying to manage their time as a social entrepreneur?
I think it's all about passion. And it seems, heard like that, it seems like a 2-minute quote from the internet, really. Nothing very wise to say. But in fact, is when you are driven by that passion or by that goal, nothing can stop you. If you don't have time and a meeting occurs and that it's an important meeting, you're going to say, yes, I can. Even if, in fact, you definitely can't and you're on the other side of the city, but you're going to make it work somehow to get at that meeting. You're going to make it work to, instead of going to your PhD office, to have your office at the tool library. So it's all about logistics. And I feel we are very disempowered in our society at the moment because all what we see, it seems far from us. We see it through screens of television, computers, and we feel that we can't really act on that things. But in fact, it's all about us. What we see in the television somehow is related to our actions. So if someone is really motivated, then they can achieve their goal. And again, it sounds really, really like, a bullshit quote, sorry the term, but it's true. But I also acknowledge that having family or friends supporting you is really important, because sometimes we can, people in the enterprises or startup sector, they might tell you, leave everything and follow your dreams. But we always have to consider which privilege key aspect we have in our life that allowed us to arrive where we are. Some people, for different situations, they can't just leave everything and start what they really want. And that's what we do also the Tool Library, honestly. We have so many people that they're migrants or unemployed, and we try to empower their skills so that they can eventually then find a job if they can't find it with us, or they can simply be integrated. We had a refugee working with us. So it might take a bit longer than already a skilled, perfect person to work with, but that's all what a community hub is about. Beyond the long-term goals, we want to integrate everyone in this journey with us.
That's so awesome. I love the idea of this, turning a simple concept of borrowing tools into a community hub. It's more than just somewhere to come and get tools. So we are coming to the end part of our interview, and our final questions we always like to do as a bit of a lightning round. So please just tell us the first thing that comes to your mind. That could be about the Brisbane Tool Library, or potentially about your PhD, if that's top of mind. And so with that in mind, what are you most excited about today?
Working with the people that we have in our team.
Aww. What was the one thing that was holding you back from starting the Brisbane Tool Library? And maybe aside the insurance.
Honestly, nothing. From the first day where I had that idea in my kitchen, I started. So since then, I changed kitchen because I changed home. But that will to work toward the tool library has always been the same.
Wow. And what do you see as being the Brisbane Tool Library's biggest challenge for the next 12 months?
Oh, yeah. So we have some big news that unfortunately I can't reveal yet, but please watch our space. We have some really big news coming up that we present us as the first tool library in the world doing what we're going to do. And, with growing your project, growing your social enterprise, then you have to also raise the standards to deliver a service. So in raising that standards, now we might face some stressful times.
You've shared some great insight with us today, Sabrina, but what is the best advice that you have ever received?
To be as direct and stubborn as I am, at the same time not to be it, which is all a paradigm. But you will be going to feel as confused as me. But yeah, that's it.
So if you could leave our listeners with a few words that they'd really take to heart today, what would they be?
What can you do in the next 20 minutes that can actually impact the society? Just in the next 20 minutes.
I was planning to just have a coffee, but hey.
Well, the type of coffee you choose, of where you buy it from, or how you buy it from, or with who you get it, it might impact.
That's right. And Erin actually has brought this to mind a fair bit with me in terms of, where I shop and being conscious of these choices that I make. So, no, absolutely spot on. So just as we wrap up this interview, Sabrina, what is the best way to reach out to you? Obviously, if people live in Brisbane, to access the Brisbane Tool Library, but just to follow you on social media.
So we have a basic website, which is brisbanetoollibrary.org. So you can contact us through that. Or we're very active on Facebook, and our page is simply Brisbane Tool Library. We post a lot of workshops and other events that we participate in. And if not, reach out to the Human Factor, and they're going to give you my contact.
Oh, well, Sabrina, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the Human Factor. Thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Thanks so much to you. And, it's really important what you're doing, highlighting all the positive things happening around the world.
The goodie bag. It's time for the goodie bag, Mel. No one's going to know what that is referencing. But what's in your goodie bag?
Okay, so what Erin is doing is a wrap of the video that we're going to share on Facebook, which is about using duck and ducklings to replace pesticide, which is really cool because I'm really passionate about eating organic as much as I possibly can. And I think anyone who has had health issue had been looking at that. So basically, the way I understand it, this is a little bit above my head, but they release the little duckling into the wild, so onto the farm or the rice field or whatever they're doing. And then they're just ducking around, which is our new term, to just kind of hanging out. And then what happened is they fertilize the soil naturally. And so that's a Japanese farmer who thought of that. And apparently now tens of thousands of farmers across, China and Korea and South Africa and just different places in the world are using that. And they're even using the little duck in the vineyards. So it's a really cute video. We'll be sharing this on our social media, but anything that has to do in, being as natural as possible, pretty much get my vote.
And just a content warning, we will be sharing it in French. So enjoy if you speak French. So I am putting in a designer into the goodie bag. They are Brisbane-based designers and they are called Jericho Road Clothing. I really love their stuff, and I'm actually wearing one of their dresses today.
Looks fab.
Thank you. And so they're Brisbane-based designers, all of their clothes are made in China, but are ethically done so. And they have all this information about their factory and everything, so it's super transparent. And basically, all their prints are really colourful and bold, and they say that they were inspired by the animals and colours of the Queensland outback, which is really, really cool. And I find that their stuff is so unique to Queensland, and I own about 3 pieces from them, and I get so many compliments on their stuff. And I've just discovered that the dress I'm wearing today is reversible. What? So I get 2 dresses in one. Oh my God. And it has pockets. Like, what more could you want in a dress?
Well, I would like to know which animal of the outback of Australia is pink, Erin.
A cockatoo? A galah. So yeah, please go and check them out on Instagram, Jericho Road Clothing, and we will share a little picture of my dress. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. We would recommend 5 stars. And did you know that you can actually rate every single one of our episodes? So if you've given us 5 stars before, we'd encourage you to give us another 5 on this episode as well. Then head over to our page, Human Factor Podcast, on Instagram or Facebook and join in the conversation. Tell us what you thought of this episode, and if you have any thoughts or insights to add to anything Sabrina said today, leave us a comment.
Or you can find us on Twitter @_HumanFactor. Or you can read our blog at humanfactor.com.au. We'd love it if you can leave us some suggestions of a person or a topic that you'd like us to feature on a future show. So don't hesitate to contact us.
You're all awesome. We'll see you next time.